Welcome to Jazz, Joanna, Angelis, Spiritist Society. Is everybody proficient in English? So and so. So Bruno has some copies in Portuguese. They help you at least understand the base of it. Welcome. So let's get started. My name is Ricardo, and tonight, actually, our lecture is going to be a mini workshop. So the basic difference is the workshop, we work more. We all work. Lecturing, we tend to be more listening, and of course, we can work inside of our mind. But when we act, we learn better. So that's the idea. I want to give a little contextualization here. So I think last year, probably the beginning of the year, here at Joanna Angelis Spiritist Society, we started to study the divine law in our program, for the youth program and also for the Monday lectures. And it's been a very good work. I think we all enjoying it. It was very nice that we had last Thursday out of Dutra Dias in San Francisco. Who went there? Okay, good number, 70%. So he's a Brazilian speaker and he talked about divine law. So I thought it was amazing how we somehow are merging to the same destiny. And so each month we've been working a specific law, and this month of May 2019, we are going to be developing our knowledge and our feelings about the law of charity and love and charity. So that's the beginning of the month, and this parable Retold is based on the parable of the Good Samaritan, a story that Jesus told, like Katie just read for us. Thaddeus asked Jesus, I want you to explain deeper about the parable of the Good Samaritan. And then he told this other parable that has kind of the same symbols, but it has more, so it goes deeper. Just quick quiz. So first, you guys know this book? Spirit's book? Okay, that's the most basic and foundational book on Spiritism. Oh, you know too, Rafael? Okay, very good. He studied before he incarnated. Yeah. So, which part of the Spirit's book is more condensed, the moral law? Third part, book 3. Okay, very good. And then Allan Kardec later on, so this book was published in 1857. So in 1862, he published another book that takes the third part, the moral law, and then is expanded where he develops deeper. Which book is that?
Gospel.
The Gospel?
According to
Spiritism. Which basically goes into the Bible, and he, more specifically the New Testament, the Gospel, and he focuses on the moral part. And so he's going to develop explaining Jesus' teachings based on the Spiritist doctrine. It's based on the Spiritist revelation. Good evening and welcome. Okay, so then there is the Gospel. The third revelation for us came through Spiritism, as we believe. And Spiritist has the main foundational books, 5 books, and another books that Allan Kardec published, plus their Spiritist magazine. Does Spiritism stops there? No, because Spiritist is progressive. So after Kardec, there were continuing work of other authors, other mediums. And we know in Brazil, more especially in the last century, we have this very well-known medium, Chico Xavier, very charitable man. He published more than 400 books through his mediumship. He didn't make any profit. He lived in a very small house. All the money was either for helping the publication of other books, to support spirit centers, and to support charitable programs. Chico Xavier. And this book is by Spiritus. So what we can think of some of Chico Xavier's books is that they're going deeper. So now we have the Gospel, that's the basic. And then we go and have many books by Emmanuel, by Neo Lúcio, Humberto de Campos, Joanna Angelis, and others, and Megafront. And they're developing more understanding on the Gospel. So, great book. I very recommend this book. I love this book. And you can use as a book you read and do your gospel at home. So how are we planning to do this workshop? I wanted to give some contextualization at the beginning, so people who come late they still can join and get to the practice. Is this working? Okay, now it's working. So basically, we're going to review the parable that just read to us, so we can get again more familiar with the symbols. Then we're going to review some of Spiritist teachings about inner reform, self-knowledge. It's in the Spirit book by St. Augustine. And finally, we're going to apply the teachings of the parable, the symbols, into our inner reform. And you guys have paper. The idea is, ideally, a workshop, we have more time, like I would say at least 1 hour and a half. So I have time to pause, let people make notes, ask questions, discuss. And we're learning and developing new formats. So as of tonight, we're calling a mini workshop. You guys feel free to make notes, but I'm not going to stop too late. Otherwise, we're going to go beyond our time. And it's very recommended and important that you all participate. You don't need to speak to me, just participate in your mind, inside of you, because the theme is inner reform. And it's a great opportunity to achieve happiness through understanding our limitations, through reforming them. And this workshop has the goal to help us all to practice that inner reform. And so give yourself this opportunity, give yourself love as an act of charity, to love yourself, and allow yourself to participate. If you want to make notes to remember later, go ahead. If you want to make notes after, so you don't miss anything, that's fine too. And we are recording, so if you don't have any technical issues, it's going to be on YouTube. Although I recommend to be more present tonight, because sometimes the sound doesn't go as good. So let's start. We need to get used to this. Parable Retold. So Jesus was doing the gospel in the home with his disciples and friends and family at Simon Peter's house. And Thaddeus asked him, hey, I want to understand better about the parable of the Good Samaritan. And can you explain deeper? And Jesus, of course. So he told the story. An old man, grimacing in pain, was lying on the ground at the gates of a large city. He was being watched by unlearned and indifferent people. A young, generous Roman sped by his chariot and tossed 2 silver coins at the man. But a new-mannered street urchin went off with them. A venerable scribe of the mall passed by. He said that he had important issues to take care of, but he promised to send authorities to help the nameless beggar. A priest came parading by. He thrilled the homeless traveler a gesture of blessing. He exhorted the people to take the sick man in and feed him. A respectable lady suddenly came on the scene. The noble matron asked if there weren't any men around who might help the sick man. A great judge came along. The same stretch of public role. And alleging he would need time and evidence to prove that he wasn't a common fiend. And so he quickly left. A dealer in money bags appeared who asserted his lack of time and gave money to a kind-looking man to provide assistance. But the man was an escaped convict who ran off with the money without providing assistance. Along came an old publican, regarded as being a lowlife, because he didn't worship the Lord according to the rules of the Pharisees. To everyone's shock and amazement, he went up to the poor man, spoke a few words of encouragement and kindness to him, and helped him. Supporting him with his own strength, he led him to a trustworthy friend. He gave him the medicine he needed and shared the small amount of money he had on him. Then he returned to his journey, continuing his way. After finishing the story, Jesus then comes back to Thaddeus and asks, Thaddeus, in your opinion, who performed a true act of What's the answer?
Love.
Yes. Why?
Because he had compassion.
Because he had compassion.
He gave his time.
He gave his time,
Give
money,
encouragement.
encouragement. He was the only one who did the help. The others, they gave somebody the responsibility. Very good. So we go back to the parable. Welcome. Again, now in a reform. So I forgot to mention. So then Jesus says to Theist, well done. Well, do the same. And let me get the word here. You should do the same. Charity through others is without a doubt both honorable and commendable. Charity through others. But the good that we practice directly by giving of ourselves is the greatest and surest of all. And so, let us, if you haven't started yet, let us start to give of yourself to yourself. So give yourself the cognition to be present, the body to be present too. Don't be so comfortable, otherwise you get sleeping. And because if you're sleeping, your spirit might be here learning or might go someplace else. Except for Rafael. Rafael, go ahead and you can sleep. Give yourself love, be optimistic, be in a good mood. It's much better to learn when we're having fun and to practice in a reform because we want it, not because we were told. And to continue to giving ourselves love, let's talk about inner reform. I was happy that yesterday Daisy mentioned this passage in the Spirit book by St. Augustine. And she told us St. Augustine lived in 500, 600 after Christ.
6th century
After 6th century after Christ. And he's kind of like a great philosopher, thinker of Christianism. Very important for humankind, I would say. His influence might be in things that constitutions, things that we don't even think of. And he has a great influence of his mother, Monica, that helped him to be converted to Christianism. And now with Spiritism, the third revelation, the Consoler, the promised Consoler, he's one of the spirits with more messages in Kardec's books. So he's a great contributor to Spiritism too. And because Spiritism expands our horizons, and because in a spirit state, we can see some things better, especially more mature spirits, we can see things better than when they are incarnated. He developed his ideas. And Allan Kardec is asking, back to the book number 3, which has the moral laws, or the moral law. Kardec's asking in the part that talks about characteristics of virtuous men. And eventually he goes and asks, what is the most efficacious method of ensuring one's moral improvement in the present life and resisting the attraction of evil? And then the answer, one of the sages of antiquity has told you, know thyself. Self-knowledge. And then I'm like, okay, that's, we understand this. There is wisdom in that. But that seems to be the most difficult part. By what means can we acquire it? And St. Augustine gives a very beautiful answer. I recommend everybody to study. It's the answer to question 919. And it's a 2-page answer. And here we summarize. And basically, he says that at the close of each day, he will stop and think. Give himself that time, the discernment, the love to evaluate his day. And he would then examine his conscience. Ascertain what there was in me that needed reforming. There is just in that, there is a lot of learning that. First, when we look at this at the close of each day, we can see that we have many cycles in life. And it's a very common cycle. Every night we go to sleep, hopefully we're doing that for good health. And we can see the next morning we wake up. So we can even think that each night is like a reincarnation. We discarnate and incarnate again in the morning. We have always a second chance. And it's also good because if you do this every month or every year, you're only going to remember just some things. And it's going to take you a lot of effort to do the inner reform. So it's better if you do every day because then you're going to find the patterns and then we can fix them more efficiently. And then he is talking about examining his conscience. Do you guys, I think we talk about this a lot here. You guys can tell me what does Spiritism say of our conscience to the divine law? Is there any relation?
Yes.
So what does the Spirit say about the divine laws related to our conscience?
We all have the divine law inside of us.
We all have the divine law inside of our conscience, and it's written. So St. Augustine is using the same maxim, the same assertion, for us to apply that into our happiness. So we go into our conscience. We all have the divine law, so we don't have excuses. Oh, I didn't know, or I didn't want to know. And we all have the possibility to go and talk to our conscience. So it's an exercise that we develop trust. I ask a question, and then I trust the answer. And of course, with the practice, we end up learning how to separate which answer is coming from my conscience and which answer is coming from my ego. Because our ego wants us to be good in the picture. So our ego might say, no, you did all good. Your day was perfect. You made no mistake. And with the practice, we end up learning how to thanks my ego for being a good helper. Now I want to go deeper because I know I'm not perfect yet, so I need to find out what needs to be reformed. And then, so St. Augustine gives a lot of questions. They are very interconnected, and I just picked 5 of them for the sake of time. So here are some examples. So at the end of the day, ask yourself, what had I done? And actually, I want to tell a story that I heard in Brazil many years ago, because then I'm going to apply this question to the story as if we were the subject of the story. So there was a story about charity, and we just in the beginning of the night we read the parable Retold, which the Good Samaritan expanded. Now it's the old publican, and then we looked at it again with the symbols, and the parable talk about charity. In our material world, it's a very important part of our lives, our material life. What is charity? Not in Spiritism Center or in Spiritist doctrine, but in general, when people talk about charity, what are the images that comes to our minds?
Give.
Give what?
Money.
Give money to
Or
whom?
food to poor people.
Give money to poor people. Give money to those in need. What else?
Material food.
Material things. Yeah, exactly. So we can summarize it that. That's the most common way of using the word charity. Give money to somebody who's in need, somebody who's poor. And it goes variations of that. Maybe don't give money, give food, give water, give clothes, things for the winter, blankets, jackets. And now in Spiritism, Spiritism tries to revive and recap and correct things that were misunderstood or purposely changed in Christianism. So Jesus Christ, our master, model and guide, taught us that charity is something inside of us. So we can look at it as a process. We can look at it as a beautiful garden of virtues, and we are the gardeners. So if we develop all those virtues connected, then we develop charity. Benevolence, tolerance, what else? Compassion, somebody said earlier. Empathy, forgiveness. And so empathy is connected to sensitivity, like sensing what is the other's needs, what are the others. And then, of course, if we are developing true charity, we might end up giving money to somebody who's in need. Or we might give something else. And so this story, now back to the story. So this man was a very rich man, and he was very selfish. He didn't have friends. He didn't love his family. He didn't love him. They were just close to him because of his money. And he was in his car, a very hot day, with the air conditioner on. And he had bought some very delicious food in the bakery. And then came this poor kid who was in it and knocked at his window asking for money to buy food. And he's just ignoring. He's just ignoring. And the boys is, and the boys insist, please, I'm really hungry, I'm really hungry. And then he because he's annoyed, he's like, yeah, okay, whatever. So he gets a piece of bread, delicious bread, and open the window and give it to the boy. And the boy's so grateful and so happy because he was really hungry. The man goes away. So that's the part I've heard of the story. There might be more things into it. And then I heard that after he disconnected, which might have been a long time after, he had some time of suffering because he was a selfish person. And when it's time for him to reincarnate, and in that case, it was kind of fast. Sometimes it might take decades, and his case didn't take much time. And they were fine, okay, let's find somebody in your family that's willing to receive you as a kid. Because in the state you are, you need to reincarnate to progress. And then he goes back to, they can't find anybody who wants to receive him. Nobody loved him. And so there was one person who prayed for him.
Was that kid?
It was the kid, which was now an adult man. He was still poor, but he was now an adult. He had a family. And so during his dream, because when we sleep, our spirits might do some work or do whatever we can do, sometimes not work. But in that case, he was a good boy, a good man. And so in dream, they visited him and he accepted to receive him as his son because he was grateful. So the message here that I want to take from this lesson is that through the eyes of the material world, when he gave the piece of bread, he was doing charity, right? He was helping somebody who was poor, giving money or food, somebody who was in need. Now, through the lenses of our conscience that Jesus is teaching us and Spiritism is helping us to understand his teachings, was that charity? True charity. In this case of the story, and this is not for us to judge the man, for our own learning, because we do the same, if he was doing for a selfish reason. And so here is the questions of St. Augustine. What had I done? So pretending that we were that man on that day or a similar situation happened to us. In the end of the day, I evaluate the interactions that I have with people, my emotions, when they went unbalanced, and then what had I done? And then we might remember, yes, I was in the car and I gave the boy bread. Okay, I was a good man. And then the second question, what was my aim? And if we are sincere with ourselves, and this is very important, when we practice inner reform, be sincere to yourself. And have courage to get the answers. A lot of courage, because we like to look ourselves in the mirror and see this very beautiful I am, this very strong person, this person with no imperfections. So it requires humbleness and courage to see ourselves in who we are. And then in that case, the answer would be, what was my aim? I give the bread to get rid of the annoying kid. And then when we get the answer sincere to ourselves, we realize, okay, so I have some selfishness to reform inside of me. Because that selfishness is going to block me to achieve happiness, to make the better choices for myself and for the ones around me. And next one, had I failed in some duty? And St. Augustine says he's not speaking specifically of the material duties, which is included because the material duties, they tend to be interconnected to our moral duties. But he's talking about moral. So as parents, did I approximate my kids to God? That's the duty of the parents. Did I set a good example? If I think I did set a good example, what was my aim? Was I trying to look good to be an example, or was I being good because I wanted to? And then, might someone have a reason to complain of me? So the others, we talk about the mirrors, how the others are projections of our own perception of ourselves. That's kind of complicated, but it's just a matter of the others around us, they tend to tell us what needs to be responsible for us. It doesn't mean that we should take literally or anything they say, we should guard and so on. But especially the close ones, husband and wife, and kids, parents, brothers and sisters, those tend to be more honest. Because between the four walls of our home, we tend to be ourselves without masks. We still have the mask, but we tend to be more free to that are, what is the expression, that are dragons, get out. It has expression in Portuguese, dogs. Soltar cachorros. So at home, we release the dogs. And so they know about us and they will tell us. Sometimes not in the best way, but we still can use that to learn what needs to be reformed. Have I done anything that will be ashamed of me? And that helps because sometimes our imperfections, they appear when we are alone. And we might think like, oh, I was okay today. I didn't cause any harm to anybody. Well, how about your thoughts? If you were in front of Jesus or somebody who you really admire in the spiritual world, and they say, okay, let's see what were your thoughts today. Would you be embarrassed of something? You watched that movie and there was this very handsome or pretty actor there. What were your thoughts? And so through those situations, it helps us to realize, how am I using on this example, my sexual energy to create life, to create a family, or to create my virtues? Or am I just continuing doing what I have done a lot in the past and bringing to a misguided direction? And thus, that I arrived at knowing myself and seeing what there was in me that needed to be reformed. And when we practice this exercise, it's carried towards self. So you feel happy. It's weird because I'm learning that I have all these imperfections, like to make a list, and it takes like a lot of pages, and you need to put on the computer because it's too much writing down. But you still feel happy because you know that without doing that, you're not going to feel the full happiness that we may achieve in the future. And so we already can feel happy by practicing this exercise and then to change it, because once we know, then we want to change because we don't want to be like this forever. We start to learn there are connections between our imperfections and our sufferings. Oh, I have this person, boss, husband, wife, neighbor, this person who really it's hard on me, or I have a lot of challenges with this person. And well, probably there is an imperfection there. And sometimes it's somebody who I harmed in this life or in previous lives. And that person, in a subconscious way, is looking for revenge because that person hasn't forgiven yet. But we don't need to wait for them to forgive. We can exercise forgiving ourselves and repairing. So by searching the cause of those mistakes, so in the example of the man in the car, what was the cause that I gave the bread? Because I was selfish. And perhaps, and this is just a simulation, maybe he would think, why was I selfish? Maybe when I was a kid, I was really poor and I was always afraid of being hungry again. And I'm an adult and I still live with the same fears of the kid. So maybe he has fear of God. And this is something we should always reflect, because if you consider the planet that we live, sacrifices that like primitive tribes would do, sacrificing kids, people, sacrificing enemies, and then even in the followers of religious leaders who have sacrificed people or who have persecuted people, like in the Crusades. And there's a good chance that we were there. Maybe we were there being the one who was accusing and killing in the name of Jesus, or the ones who were being attacked. And so if we haven't developed the balancing and understanding of those emotions, of those experiences, we might carry them inside of us in a subconscious way, so we're not fully aware. But when a situation comes that's similar to that, it will trigger, and then that trigger might make us act in the same way like we act in the past. But right now, we don't need that behavior anymore. That was back then, because back then I didn't know. And now I know better, so I don't need to maybe have this fear of God or have this fear of not having enough to eat, like the story. So, very good. So this is just a contextualization. And now we're going to do the exercise part. So here we have this beautiful waterfall. I'm even getting thirsty. This exercise is for you to connect yourself, in essence, to your conscience, like St. Augustine telling us, and ask yourself this question: what illness your soul needs to be reformed. A small disclaimer is if you have leadership, that's not the opportunity, not the time to let the spirits communicate. So keep the control of the gate. You are the master of the soul. If in doubt, just keep your eyes open. Otherwise, it's okay to close your eyes and be prepared to, maybe you're going to get an answer for your ego. And you just thank for the answer, but go deeper. So give yourself the opportunity. And I'm going to give maybe 1 minute. You may want to concentrate on your breath, the image of the waterfall. Jesus used to teach close to nature, teaching us that when we are close to nature, it may help us to feel closer to God. Try to connect to yourself, in essence, divine inside of you. Give yourself permission to practice this act of charity towards yourself. And ask yourself, what illness your soul needs to be reformed for your own health? As you get the answer, be thankful for the answer. Trust your own conscience. Trust your own answer. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Come back to the room. Yeah, Rafael. Good job. Okay, very good. So you don't have to make a note of that because I'm sure you're going to remember later. It's like just a very simple method, but so deep and so important. So for a group, because I cannot go one by one on that, I want you to think of an example of an imperfection that we all may have. Yes. Doesn't have to be that one.
Pride.
Right? Okay, very good. That was going to use that example. The Spirit's book in the Gospel according to Spiritism, we tend to see that pride and selfishness are the root of all the evil inside of us and thus on the planet. So it's a good one to work. And for an exercise that we're going to do next, now we're going to go in the parable and we're going to develop the act of charity towards ourselves through our pride. In general, I think if you go back to St. Augustine, that I'm assessing my conscience about what was my day, it's good to get specific examples. So when you are doing the meditation, the mini meditation, maybe you remember the scene that happened today or yesterday or recent scene or important scene in your life. So it's good to use that as an example, a specific example, because I can promise you, if you are starting now or just started recently, you're not going to reform your pride in just one session. It takes a lot of work. This life, probably a lot of lives for that. Or the imperfection that we get, we may improve a lot in one life. So we practice this exercise with the imperfection that enter into practice. So it's a way to give God's love, Jesus' love, and knowledge to that specific imperfection. If you think about it, in the parable, Jesus, as Spiritism is saying, was a man that we cannot understand the level of intelligence that he has and that he had then when he brought us the gospel, and the level of love and the level of will So for us, we can only imagine that something's beyond the best thing we can imagine in terms of love, of free will, or goodwill and intelligence. And because he loved us, he gave us his teachings and he put them in symbols. Because the symbols were somehow working for the people, for us back then, that we have less intelligence and understanding and love and will as we have today. And so the teachings, they travel through the time, and we can always go back there and go deeper and develop more. So we can carry for the rest of our evolution until we reach perfection, we can carry with us these teachings. And if you think about, have you guys heard about the Russian dolls? Like a doll inside a doll. We can compare to Jesus' teachings that in the first time we might see only the material parts. And the second time we might understand already something that's happening inside. We can go deeper and deeper until we reach our culture. And who knows, maybe there are other levels beyond that that we cannot even think of now. So for this exercise, we're going to apply these symbols to our inner world. So don't think of, oh, so I'm going to practice this exercise of the parable of the Good Samaritan expanded into going out here and start to give help to homeless. This might be a consequence, but here, now we're going to use all the symbols into our inner world. So let's start with an example. Who can be a new man? Grievous in pain, laying down on the gates of a large city. In the context of my inner reform, this exercise that we did earlier. Our pride. Or that moment that I practiced my pride acted. In the story of the man in the car, it could be, okay, the moment that I was in the car and I was selfish, I was proud and being annoyed, having no compassion. And then my pride acted. And what happened then? My pride was being washed by a small group of unlearned and indifferent people. So again, in our inner world, who is the unlearned and indifferent people? It's inside of me, my ignorance, my indifference. So I was rude to that boy, and I was indifferent. I was ignorant about my own pride, perhaps. I didn't even know that I was being proud or selfish. And so now I'm starting to get aware when I'm practicing this exercise, for example. And maybe I was indifferent. Maybe I knew I was being proud, but I don't care. I want to be proud right now. And this may happen to us. So Jesus is giving us those symbols for us to match. And we can match in any situation. I've been practicing this exercise for the last, 2 weeks. And every situation, I'm learning like something new about myself. So I'm like, oh, so I didn't know that I behaved this way. And so then we are not learning anymore because now we know. But we still may be indifferent. I know, but I don't care. And then comes a young, generous Roman. So what did Romans represent to the Jews about 2,000 years ago? Wait, authority. So they were the power. And we're going to use the image of the power. So God is the supreme power of the universe. And who is the supreme power of our inner world? Ourselves, our free will, our power of action, our free will. And so sometimes we might be like a generous Roman. So here in this example, we can see as a goodwill because he's a generous Roman. But he's young. So sometimes our will, we have a good will. Maybe we want to, I shouldn't have been that selfish. But we are superficial. We haven't matured our free will yet to take action. And maybe our action is to let go. And we miss the opportunity to practice our inner reform. Like the strict urchin that went off with the money. And I'm going to go over the symbols. There's a lot of symbols. And mentally just practice with the device of the thing that needs to be reformed inside of yourself. That's the goal of this exercise. So a scribe of the law, somebody who knows, who is studying the law. Which law we are talking about? Divine law. So within ourselves, who can be the scribe of the law? Spiritism inside of us.
Okay.
So the law could be Spiritism as an example. Inside of us, what is the mental attitude that can mimic the scribe of the law? I think this is almost there. Conscious. So I would say the law is in the conscious. But what is the mental attitude that
Action.
so I would say that we're not saying anybody is wrong. I'm just going to use a specific one because of the other symbols of the parable. So here we can see as when we are studying the law. So when I study Spiritism, which includes intuition, which includes what the other one, discipline, as a disciplined student, because to be scribe, you have to have discipline. So when I'm putting myself in the movement of studying the law, reading a Spiritist book, reading a Catholic book, or going to a church or to a temple, when we are in this movement of learning. But sometimes we do that and we don't apply what we learned to our lives. And that's the example what happens in the parable. It didn't help the nameless beggar. And the priest, you can see a priest. What is a priest in terms of the physical world, material world? Somebody who people go to advise. What kind of advice? Spiritual guide. So it's kind of like an intermediary between people and God. Now, if we talk about our inner world, and as an example of the scribe, which is our internal attitude of learning the law, we can see our internal priest as an internal attitude to connecting to God, as a preach, kind of like intermediary for us to connect to God, and then get advice or get whatever we are looking for when connecting to God. So here it could be, we can see as, for example, okay, I recognize I was selfish. God, please make me charitable. Please make me patient. Make me humble. So I do this a lot. And I think that, so what? So God's going to get his, I don't know, his computer. He's going to reprogram me. He's going to paint. Okay, let me paint away your... No, he's not going to change me because he's giving me the free will to change. He may help me. And there is a very funny charge that, that comic strip, that some person is asking God, give me patience. And then he gets more problems. Oh God, give me patience. And then he gets more problems. And then he complains, I'm asking for patience, but just give me problems. Well, you ask for patience. So this is how you acquire patience. So if we don't use our internal connection with God to really practice reforming ourselves, we might be like that. We give a blessing to the sickness, but then it goes away. And then the respectable lady, and I think because of time, I need a little bit speed up. So that one, I prefer to use the word matron. In a family, who is the matron in a family? A mother, maybe a grandmother, somebody who has love for the family, and everybody goes into for help, or it's kind of guides the family, kind of like a matron. I look at Mitch as okay, Mitch is a good symbol of matron. So maybe she's the matron of jazz. So a noble matron has love for that family or that cause. So who is that matron love or the motherly love inside of us? Huh? I already give the answer. I asked the question. It's the motherly love inside of us, because we all have an internal representation of a motherly love, either from this life, from past lives, and not necessarily just the motherly love, but the love that we have for others. And so it's an opportunity for us to practice the acceptance towards our imperfection, to accept that we are imperfect, but we can become better. And if we don't practice that, we might be hard on ourselves, or just negligent, ignoring it. And so the great judge came along on a stretch of love. How about the great judge inside of us? The conscience. You get to the conscience. It is. So the judge, so the conscience has the laws, right? And the judge is helping us to decide if we are passing or failing the law, if we are following the law or not. In this case, he is like, I need evidence to prove that he wasn't. So I'm going to use the metaphor of the judge for our discernment to analyze. Because once we are practicing inner reform, we go and we look at our actions and we have to compare, analyze, why am I acting this way? Why did I do what I should have done? Now, it's very common that we go from one extreme to another. They are not what we should be doing. One extreme is accusation, and the other one is excusing ourselves. So we may accuse ourselves, oh, you are this, you are selfish, you don't deserve a good life. We accuse, we punish ourselves, we condemn ourselves, and we punish ourselves. And that guilt doesn't help us to reform. Does it help us to reform, to be hard on ourselves? What may happen is we might put a mask, because it's easier just to pretend we are good, we're not selfish. And maybe we start to give bread to other people and, oh, I'm not selfish anymore. But we are not working inside, so the selfishness is still in there. Or we can be in the other side and excuse, no, but nobody's perfect. No, I'm like this. And give ourselves those excuses so we don't need to reform ourselves and we don't get reformed by being negligent. And here, Peter in Moneybags, my interpretation is the things of the material world. So, can be money. What else? It can be time.
Appearance.
Appearance, yes, a physical appearance, our body, the first one, right, when we incarnate. Our family, whatever kinds of opportunities and challenges that God gives us to develop inside. So those are helpers. And sometimes we don't use them to help ourselves. And we miss the opportunity. And every time we miss the opportunity, we're going to have another one, but they tend to become harder and harder to press us to change. So now to the symbols of the inner reform comes, so I'm going to skip the part of the Pharisees. I'm going to everyone's shock and amazement. He went up to the poor man. So that would be, and I'm going to give the answer, and then next one ask the question. That would be our attitude to go towards what? Towards our imperfection. So that selfishness that I was speaking earlier. So now I finally decided that I want to reform myself. I want to work with this moment that I was selfish, with the boy in the car, for example. And different than the others, now I'm acting to change myself. And then I could start, first I already recognized that's the previous life, and now I'm going to use my inner nature, my inner motherly love, to give myself words of encouragement and kindness. Because I recognize that we are living in a world that almost everybody is imperfect, except for Jesus, if you think about that. And so everybody makes mistakes, and I have the right to make mistakes. Now I have the duty to improve them once I realize, because that makes me achieve happiness faster, and I want to have less suffering. So it's very important to practice self-acceptance. Recognize that it's okay not to be perfect now, and it's okay we're going to make the same mistakes again, but every time try to learn. If we fall, then try to make 2 steps forward. And be prepared because you're going to fall again, and just get up and continue the process. And help yourself. So when I'm meditating about my imperfection, help myself might be think about like the exercise that St. Augustine would say. So meditate. Why am I acting this way? Why do I always act this way? Why do I have so much fear? Why do I need so much to be approved by the others? What is inside of me that's needing the approval? And then what I need to do to start approving myself, for example. And then we're going to use our own strength. So we start to learn not to transfer responsibility to God, to Jesus, to a mother, to a husband, wife, or something else, or jobs. And we start to take the responsibility and use our own strength. So I don't have Mother Teresa's strength of charity yet, but I have a little bit. I already started to plant the seeds of charity, so I'm going to use that. I'm going to use that to make myself a better person. And then comes the part that we were talking about earlier. So what is inside of our mental experience? A trustworthy inner. So it's a place that's cozy, it's comfortable, it's good, it's safe, it works. We are very well served in that place. So what is that place in our mind? I don't want to answer that one. That's the most important, I think. Guys already said in the previous questions. Conscience. Why? Because in our conscience is the divine law, which is God's will. So God is inside of us, and He put inside of us our conscience to help us guide. So we go connect to our conscience like the exercise in St. Augustine. And we could apply to that. I'm going to skip here, but I put here as an example. I could explain this later. We start to practice developing, meditate upon each of the laws. So I love myself right now. And it's good for me. It's just because I want to be a better person. So, and the law of progress, I want to become better. I have the seed to become better. I have everything that's needed. God has given me the exact opportunity that I need. And I'm going to practice this work of the inner reform. I'm going to use my free will, and I'm going to take responsibility of my life, responsibility for my actions, for my choices. And I understand that I have that because of the law of equality. Everybody has that. Everybody has a free will and a chance to change. And we live in a society. Maybe I get help from my family. I can also be helping others in my family or in society, my community. And I'm going to use my creative power to recreate myself. And the law of destruction, I'm going to transform my vices into virtues. And so in the parable, Jesus said next that He gave him the medicine he needed. So what is the medicine for the pride inside of ourselves? Humbleness. Inner reform to develop humbleness. So if I discover that I'm proud, I'm gonna practice exercise of humbleness. So I don't need now to say, okay, I'm humble, I'm gonna give me a stamp, and from now on, I'm a humble person. It doesn't work like this. We cannot just self-label ourselves, we cannot just label ourselves and become, but we can practice exercise of humbleness. So what is the medicine for the vice of impatience? Patience. So if I discover that I'm impatient, then I'm gonna practice exercise of patience. And I'm gonna use my time, the video money bags, my money, whatever I have as resources to develop that patience, that love, that compassion. Okay, we're almost done. Our inner kid gets tired, a lot of intellectual exercise. So we give the medicine that we need for that introspection that we found. We share whatever we have as resources. And then we return to our journey because there's going to happen again. We're going to have another, how do you say, sleepover? When they slip and they can sleep again. That's not a sleepover. Slip up. Yeah, slip up. So we're going to make that same mistake again in different context. Maybe practicing this exercise we can prevent or we can fix right after. The important thing is to keep the work every day. We constantly continue, persevere, have persistence. And if you don't have, just practice because you're going to acquire. And when we go back to our journey and we practice exercise, and so as my example, I was saying that I was on the last 2 or 3 weeks doing this exercise for different situations, there's a point that you reach peace of mind. Okay, I'm done with this exercise. I learned about it, and I continue with my journey because more opportunities are going to come later. So now Jesus asks you, who have just performed a true act of charity to your inner human? Myself. So if you practice this exercise, you have practiced true charity. So now you know that you have the seed of charity. Maybe it's already a little flower, maybe it's becoming a tree soon. But you recognize that you are that person. You are the person who is loving yourself. You are the person who is taking actions to control your life, to become happier, to reform yourself. And then If you're all doing this place, this Joanna Spirit Society is going to be such a fun place to be at, more than it already is. Imagine we all here practicing inner reform every day. We're going to be nicer to each other, workers, volunteers, students, and our home's going to be much better. If we're having challenges in our home, they might become smoother. And so, recommended exercise by our Master Jesus. And basically, we review the parable we're told, which is kind of like the parable of the Good Samaritan expanded. We review some hints for practicing inner reform, and we practice it tonight. Hopefully, if we were trying, we have learned something. And if you don't feel like you have learned something, just do again, watch the video again later, or just go back to the book. I'm sure the symbols are going to come back. And just keep doing, participate in webinars. We are living a time that Spiritism is not just more for mentally understanding. We have passed this time. It's for us to practice and reform. Because we are in a world of trials and expiations, going through a generation. So we love this planet. I hope we all here love this planet. So to continue here, we need to be willing to regenerate ourselves, to regenerate, to make a new us. So we finished with our mini workshop. And that's the title. So now, what we're going to do is we're going to have a collective fast, and that's because of the time. And